Most men over 55 believe their prostate gets larger simply because they're getting older. It's what we've been told for decades, that it's just part of the deal, like graying hair or slower mornings. And yes, aging plays a role, but I want to tell you something you may not have heard before. Your prostate isn't just reacting to your age, it's responding to something you're doing every single day. Something quiet, something ordinary. A habit so common it barely registers anymore, but powerful enough to shape how your body feels, how often you wake up at night, and how much energy you carry into the day. And you may have done it already today without thinking twice. I'm not here to alarm you. I'm here to tell you the truth, gently but clearly. Because this particular habit, while subtle, can slowly lead to the kind of prostate pressure and discomfort that so many men come to me about. It doesn't happen overnight. It creeps in. First, you notice that you're getting up to pee once or twice a night. Then it's 3 times. Then it's 4. Your stream slows down. You feel like you're not emptying completely. You chalk it up to age, maybe drink a little less water, maybe try an over-the-counter supplement. And still, something feels off. Let me tell you about Jim. He came into my office last winter, shoulders a little hunched, polite, but tired. He was 68, a retired mechanic who used to work on engines with the kind of quiet pride that only comes from fixing things with your hands. These days, though, he said he mostly watched TV and read the paper. "Doc, I just want to sleep through the night," he told me. He wasn't looking for a miracle, just 6 or 7 hours without waking up in the dark, shuffling to the bathroom, and staring out the window while the world stayed asleep. He'd started to feel embarrassed during family trips. His wife noticed how often he'd scout out bathrooms. At his granddaughter's dance recital, he missed her whole solo because he was in the lobby, waiting in line to pee. He told me, with a half smile, "I used to be able to go the whole day without thinking about my bladder. Now, it's like I'm planning my life around it." I nodded. I've heard that same line from more men than I can count. But what struck me most wasn't his words. It was the resignation in his voice. Like he'd decided this was just how it had to be now. But it doesn't. And here's where I gently steered Jim towards something he hadn't considered. I asked him to walk me through his day, not just his symptoms, but his habits. He woke up, had coffee, sat and read the news, then maybe a nap, maybe some TV, dinner, then more sitting, maybe a short walk now and then. Nothing dramatic, no crisis, just stillness, a day shaped by long stretches of sitting, punctuated by brief movement. And the more he talked, the clearer the pattern became. Not just for Jim, but for thousands of men I've seen. As a urologist for over 25 years, I've noticed that what we call age-related prostate enlargement is often a combination of biology and behavior. And one behavior, more than any other, keeps showing up like a quiet background hum in these stories. Prolonged sitting. Not a little sitting, a lot, hours of it, day after day, year after year. And while it may not feel dangerous, it's not smoking or drinking, it does something just as concerning. It creates pressure where there should be flow, stillness where there should be movement. You see, your prostate doesn't exist in isolation. It lives in a complex neighborhood, tucked just below the bladder, wrapped around the urethra, and nestled in a web of blood vessels, nerves, and soft tissue. It's a sensitive structure, deeply responsive to circulation, inflammation, and tension. And when you spend long periods sitting, especially in the same position, you begin to reduce blood flow to the pelvic region. Muscles tighten. Vessels constrict. Fluids stagnate. Over time, this environment becomes more inflammatory. Think of your prostate like a small sponge. When you're up and moving, that sponge gets rinsed and renewed. But when you're still, especially after meals or late in the day, it just sits there, absorbing pressure. Jim looked surprised when I told him that sitting could be playing a direct role in his symptoms. "You mean just sitting?" he asked. I nodded. Not to blame him, but to help him connect the dots. Because it's not just about the act of sitting. It's about the hours that it adds up to, and how those hours change the internal environment of your lower body. The longer you sit, the more your pelvic floor loses tone, the more your circulation slows down, the more your lower abdominal pressure increases. All of this puts subtle but significant strain on the prostate, and over time, that strain becomes symptoms. At first, he was skeptical. 5 minutes really makes a difference? He asked. I smiled. You'd be amazed what comes back to life when you start to move again. He agreed to try it, not because I convinced him, but because something about it made sense. He knew what it felt like to get stiff after a long car ride. He knew his legs felt better after a stroll around the block. This wasn't new knowledge. It was old wisdom, buried under modern habits. And here's where things started to shift. Within 2 weeks, Jim called and said he was waking up only once a night instead of 4 times. He felt more rested. He had more energy in the mornings. It's like my body was waiting for permission to move again, he said. And he didn't stop there. He started doing gentle stretches in the evening while listening to his favorite music. His posture improved. His mood lifted. And slowly, the narrative he'd been telling himself, that this was just old age, began to crumble. I thought of another patient, Robert, 74, former elementary school principal, always dressed in a button-down shirt no matter the season. Quiet, kind, and deeply analytical. He'd come to see me not just for his prostate symptoms, but because, as he put it, I don't feel like myself anymore. For Robert, the issue wasn't just getting up 3 or 4 times a night. It was the way he began to avoid things he used to enjoy. Lunches with friends, afternoon walks with his wife. Even his weekend crossword puzzle started to frustrate him because the fatigue made it hard to focus. When I examined him and reviewed his scans, his prostate was slightly enlarged, yes, but not dramatically so. What stood out more was the rigidity in his pelvic floor, the tightness through his hips and lower back, the guarded way he moved, like every step had to be negotiated. That's when we talked, not just about his symptoms, but about his structure, how the pelvis works like a junction box, connecting muscle groups, blood vessels, and nerves that all influence prostate function. I explained how the prostate itself isn't a muscle. It can't stretch or contract the way a bicep does, but it's surrounded by muscles, blood supply, and nerves that do respond to movement. When those muscles stay clenched or inactive for too long, especially the deep muscles of the pelvic floor, the prostate is essentially living in a neighborhood that's tense, compressed, and inflamed. It's like trying to water a garden with a bent hose. Nothing flows well, nothing drains well, and the pressure backs up in places it shouldn't. Robert was a logical man, and that analogy landed. So we worked together slowly on daily habits to help him unclench the internal machinery, gentle diaphragmatic breathing, slow pelvic tilts, and postural adjustments he could do while standing at the sink or brushing his teeth. It wasn't glamorous, but within a month, his sleep improved, his urgency decreased, and more importantly, he started to come back. His humor, his confidence, the sparkle in his eyes when he told me, "My wife said I'm less grumpy in the mornings now." That's when I knew we were on the right path. Sometimes men think they need a radical solution, but what they really need is a new relationship with their own body. Not one based on fear or frustration, but on understanding. Your prostate is a small part of you, but the way you treat your whole body shapes how that small part behaves. Tension, stillness, and shame constrict it. Movement, breath, and compassion create space. And in that space, healing begins. That's the moment I wait for. Not when the symptom improves, but when the belief starts to change. Because when a man stops believing that his body is broken and starts recognizing that it's responsive, capable, and deeply alive, even in its later chapters, that's when true health begins. That's when he stops chasing miracle cures and starts respecting the simple foundational things his body has been asking for all along. And the habit that makes the difference? It's not dramatic. It doesn't come in a bottle. It doesn't have a flashy name. It's just movement. Gentle, consistent, intentional movement. Not to punish your body, but to reconnect with it. To remind it, and yourself, that you're still in there. That you still matter. That life isn't winding down. It's shifting into a new rhythm. One you get to shape. Now, we haven't even gotten into the specifics of how to do this, how to structure your day to support pelvic health, or how certain small daily actions can ease the pressure you've been carrying. But we will. What matters for now is this. Your prostate isn't working against you. It's responding to what you give it. And that means you have more power than you've been led to believe. Let me show you what that power looks like. What that power looks like is not loud or heroic. It doesn't demand that you transform overnight or push your body beyond what it can comfortably handle. It's quiet, consistent, and deeply respectful of where you are in your life. It begins with noticing, with understanding how the body responds to rhythm. You don't need to change everything. You need to change just enough. And when it comes to your prostate, that means encouraging movement in places that have been still for too long. So let's talk about how. Not in the way you're used to hearing. No one-size-fits-all plans or complicated regimens. I want to give you something more human, more livable. Start by looking at your day in small blocks, like windows that open every couple of hours. After breakfast, instead of sliding into the recliner or turning on the news right away, walk a loop around your home. Maybe it's just from the kitchen to the hallway and back. Maybe it's down the driveway, just enough to feel your legs move under you, to get your blood circulating again through the lower pelvis, where it matters most. The key isn't speed, it's flow. You're reminding your body that it's still a living, breathing machine, not a statue. And it's in that gentle motion that the tension around your prostate begins to loosen. You may not feel it on day one, but over time, your tissues respond. Circulation improves, pelvic congestion reduces, and what once felt like heaviness or pressure begins to feel lighter, subtler, more manageable. Now, after lunch, do it again. A few minutes of walking, a few slow leg lifts at the counter, even a seated stretch where you roll your hips in slow, easy circles. These are the kinds of small, faithful acts that reset the conditions inside your lower body. If standing is difficult, you can even do seated movements, rocking from side to side in your chair, shifting your weight gently. It may sound trivial, but it's not. It's blood flow. It's oxygen. It's the difference between congestion and clarity inside your tissues. Hydration matters too, but with timing. I often tell men to front-load their water intake earlier in the day. That way, you're supporting urinary flow while also reducing the likelihood of waking up multiple times at night. A simple shift, like finishing most of your water by 6 or 7 p.m., can improve your sleep, your mood, even your memory. The fewer times you're getting up in the dark, the deeper your rest becomes. And that rest is part of your healing. Now, think about your evenings. For many men, that's when everything slows to a crawl. Dinner, a little TV, maybe a drink, and then a long stretch of stillness before bed. But if you insert just 5 to 10 minutes of movement into that window, not exercise, just motion, your body can begin to process the day more effectively. A slow-paced walk, gentle knee lifts while brushing your teeth, light stretches as the sun goes down. These little rituals signal to your body that you're not collapsing into the end of the day, but easing into rest. That matters more than most people realize. Your prostate responds to your nervous system too. When your body feels relaxed and safe, your internal tension drops, your pelvic floor softens, you urinate more easily. And so, part of supporting your prostate is also about calming your whole system. Deep breathing, warm baths, quiet moments before bed. These aren't indulgences, they're tools. Tools that reduce inflammation and help your body heal. Think of them as maintenance, the kind you would have done on a beloved old car to keep it running smoothly. Your body deserves that same care. I want to pause here and acknowledge something else. Many men carry quiet shame around these symptoms. The leaking, the urgency, the need to plan their day around a bathroom. It chips away at dignity. You start to feel like a burden, or like you're failing at something no one ever taught you how to manage. That shame can be heavier than the symptoms themselves. But you need to hear this. There is no shame in what your body is going through. None. Your body has carried you through decades of living. Work, love, injury, intimacy, stress, joy, grief, and it's still adapting. Still trying to do right by you. You are not broken. You're in a season of life where different things are required. Softer strength, more awareness, slower rhythms. That's not weakness. That's wisdom. The same wisdom that tells a man when to fix a roof before the storm, or when to let an old wound finally rest. So please, do not carry this burden alone or in silence. You're not the only one waking up at night. You're not the only one adjusting your belt after a long car ride. You're not the only one wondering if you'll ever feel normal again. I see it every day. I hear the same quiet questions, and I promise you, change is possible. When Jim started walking after meals, he didn't expect anything to happen, but he told me later. I felt like something shifted in how I thought about my body, like I was helping it instead of resenting it. That shift, emotional, not just physical, is what makes the difference. You stop fighting your body. You start listening. You realize that the very thing you thought was failing you is still trying to communicate with you. Through symptoms, yes, but also through relief. The better you treat it, the better it begins to respond. There's something deeply empowering about that. You begin to reclaim trust in yourself, and that trust can extend into other parts of your life. Intimacy, energy, confidence. You're no longer waiting for things to get worse. You're gently steering them toward better. Not perfect, not cured, just better, day by day. And better adds up. I've had men tell me months later that they feel more present with their partners, that they've stopped dreading road trips, that they've gotten back to gardening or dancing or sleeping soundly. One man said to me, "I didn't just get control of my bladder. I got a part of my life back." That's what's possible when you stop accepting decline as your only option, when you start believing in the small changes that bring big relief. So now, I want to invite you, not push you, but invite you to do one thing this week. Just one. Pick a time of day when you usually sit for a while. Maybe it's after lunch, maybe before bed. And in that window, insert 5 minutes of movement. A walk, a stretch, a few deep breaths by the window. Do it not as punishment, but as a gift to yourself, as proof that you're still showing up for your body, still taking part in your own well-being. You don't need to fix everything this week. You just need to begin. You're not alone in this. I've walked alongside thousands of men on this road, and I can tell you from experience, this road doesn't end in frustration or shame. It ends in understanding, in strength that feels earned, not forced, in moments of relief that sneak up on you quietly and remind you that change is always possible, even now. So take that small step. Not because someone told you to, but because something inside you knows it's time. Your body is listening. Your prostate is listening. And more than anything, it's waiting for rhythm, not rescue. It's waiting for you. Thank you for spending this time with me. I hope something in these words felt honest and useful. If this resonated with you, I invite you to reflect on it, maybe even share it with someone who might need to hear it too. And if you do try one small change this week, I'd love to hear how it goes. You've got more life ahead, and more say in how it feels than you might think. I'm Dr. Michael Hanks. Be kind to your body. It remembers everything, and it still wants to work with you.